Hello, welcome everybody. Happy Wednesday. Today is February 2nd. We've got a new month. Hopefully your second month of the year started off well. If you don't already know me, my name's Matt. I'm the CMO here at Legendary. I host every Wednesday typically, and I'll fill in every now and then outside of that too. But typically I'm here every Wednesday, and we've got awesome guests lined up. We always bring in live guests from our community or from our affiliate base or something like that every single Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you're newer, you can sign up to get text message reminders. All you have to do is send a simple little text message with the letters WUL to 813-296-8553. And that will get you a text message reminder every single time that we're live. We don't sell anything through that, so you're free to sign up for those, and don't worry about getting a bunch of spam and stuff like that. So for those of you who are here with us live, we encourage you to engage with us in the chat, and we'll try to engage a little bit with you if it makes sense. So, all right, the time has come. Let's bring in our guests, Dave and Gina. What's happening?
Not much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Let me see if I can. There we go. Do you guys prefer that view so we can see you guys both?
Sure.
Yeah, we have to get the better half on camera.
No, I like a little bit zoomed in just a little bit more. So tell us a little bit about you guys. Where are you guys calling in from? What's your story?
Yeah, so we're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We actually got started in November of 2020 with the challenge. We ran into a bit of a roller coaster ride with some family issues that, kind of had to take precedence over starting an online business, but we actually got back into the swing of things in 2021, and we started going all at it full blast August 2021.
Dang, cool. So you took a little bit of time off, you started, and then you were like, all right, we're back, baby, and here we go kind of thing. I like it. I like it. Cool. So hang on, I'm getting spam calls here. So you guys are on TikTok, you're on Instagram. I'm curious, when you start, well, look, before we get into content, when you guys started, were you, did you just buy it buy our course in November, or did you actually start some of the training, or was that split, or then did you in August, did you pick up where you left off, or did you kind of restart all over again?
So we basically went all in back in 2020, in November 2020.
Cool.
And we loved it. I mean, it was, when we saw the introductory video with Dave, I mean, I don't know who could watch that and not want to run through a brick wall for the guy.
Sure.
And we kind of looked at each other and said, you know what, this is something that, we think we can do. And we figured, if we're going to do it, we're going to go all in, and haven't really looked back.
Really cool. I love that. I also just wanted to maybe take a second and pause, just because I feel like sometimes in the content creation world, or especially in this industry, right? Like the industry where people are learning how to make money online or build a business or whatever. There's a lot of weird shaming that happens about oh, you stopped or you quit or whatever. And I think sometimes people just forget, and it's a sales tactic, right? But sometimes people forget that, life is pretty long, generally. Not, there's obviously tragic things, whatever, but generally speaking, you got a lot of time, and I think sometimes people need to, that's a message of relief to people, or a breath of fresh air to people in this industry, because man, when you've got years and years and years ahead of you, I mean, you guys only delayed for what, 9 months or something, 9, 10 months. And it's in the grand scheme, it's just such not a big deal, and, for those two people, or for you two people, sure. I mean, maybe you lost out on a few months, but in reality, like, if stuff comes up and, you got to be easy on yourself. You have to give yourself a little bit of grace to just, you're on your own journey. And so that's cool that you guys were able to come back, reapproach it, re-engage it, and actually be really successful too, which is even cooler. So, that's really cool. Tell us a little bit about, so you guys started to generate a little bit of money in August and kind of September and October, and it's really kind of snowballed a little bit since then, I would say. But you guys are you're creating content on social media. I think that you've also got a little bit of like a Facebook group going on too. And so you're kind of just working multiple different angles and building a community, I would say, right? Your Facebook group's newer, but again, like there's always a day one for people, and people forget that. But tell us a little bit about how the content creation has gone. Was that a struggle? Was that how's that been?
So I mean, I'm sure people have noticed that, recognize our faces, that it's Dave and Gina, but for the most part, you guys get the pleasure of seeing this ugly mug the majority of the time. And
Cool.
for me personally, that was a big thing. The idea of doing it wasn't a problem for me. It was the fact that I'm going to hit one little button and it has the potential for millions of people to be able to see it. But, as with anything new, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the easier it gets. And you know what? It's a business. This is how we're going to build and grow and, get people on board with it too. So it's what you do. Find ways to make it work.
Yeah, I love it. And it is kind of true. Maybe not millions. Well, it has the potential for millions, but I know that you guys have had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people see your guys' videos, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? I mean, we live in a very weird world. It's a fun world, but it's a weird one, man. Was that day one hitting post? Now, okay, actually, I'm really curious about your first 60 days. All right, so I'm curious about those first couple of months where things are a little bit slower, and I'd love for you to unpack sort of, maybe there's a dynamic between the two of you that's kind of like, dude, like I don't know if this is working. Like, are we gonna are we picking up steam? Are we not? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I knew right from the get-go that it was going to be something that was going to take some time to refine and kind of hone in what our message was going to be to people, because walking into it almost completely blind, there's going to be hurdles and things that you just have to work around and almost learn on the fly. And that's what we've done.
Yeah.
And we've reached out to people too and have gotten some fantastic support. And it's just a great community across the board for anybody that's doing this type of stuff. It's pretty awesome.
And he's more patient than I am. So he's the one telling me, we're not going to do this overnight. We're in it for the long haul.
Yeah. And you're like, hey, where's the
I want it now.
Yeah. Well, that's a good partnership to have then, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit the same way too, with my spouse, Catherine. So in a lot of ways, she's like, let's make this work. Like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the point? Like, come on. And I don't know. I don't, maybe it's not even really that I have a lot of patience, but maybe it's just more like I'm a little bit more in it for the journey and for the experience, I guess. But yeah, that's funny. It's a good combo to have, because it sort of reminds the more patient person of like, I do think kind of a little bit of steady pressure is honestly healthy, and maybe it doesn't always, I think for me, sometimes it's can sometimes like get on my nerves, but that little healthy push of pressure has always been helpful for me. So cool. That's funny. So then you guys have gotten, just over the course of your journey, a little bit more traction. What's been instrumental in getting traction on, let's say, TikTok or Instagram, especially TikTok, because you've had a lot of growth there, but what strategies have you deployed to figure out the algorithm, right? To figure out how to create content?
I think, speaking on both our behalves, I think it's more being willing to be honest and upfront with people and answering the questions that they have geared around what the business model is. I think anybody that would go through our profile right now, you would probably notice that most of the popularity on certain videos is specifically geared towards explaining what things are and how they work, and how you can actually do them.
Yeah, that's cool. And so when you're going in and creating content every day, what do first of all, do you have content that you create every day, or is it sporadic, or what's your system and how did you figure out that system?
Honestly, it's a mixture, and I know that's probably a terrible thing to say, but
No,
um,
nothing's a terrible thing to say.
it's a real life thing. I mean, there's days when I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna sit in a room and just hammer out X amount of drafts and just have them ready and go. And then there's times when I'm sitting there and you just kind of get inspired by almost anything, and it's like, you know what, I can make this work, and out comes the phone, pop the app on, and just go to town with it. So it's a healthy blend, I would say, between batching and creating on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I you know what I used to do when I was getting started, and sometimes it's helpful, but a lot of times it's not. I would I would hear somebody on one of these shows say something like, you have to create 5 pieces of content a day, right? Or you have to create 10 pieces of content a day. Like it was the law, like it was in the Constitution. And I was just like, okay, all right, like this is gospel, right? But then what I found is, and I didn't know it at the time because I was still figuring out who I was and my personality and how I operate and function well. So I had insecurities that I felt insecure by what other people would say. And so I always tried to do something that someone else was doing and it never felt right. And it was kind of relieving for me to hear you guys just be like, it's real life. Like
Mhm.
some days we kill it. Some days we put out 10 pieces of batch content. Some days we put out one or none, and that's kind of life. I think that systems are good and helpful, but I think also inside of knowing who you are and knowing your structure and just kind of how you're built is really helpful and refreshing to a lot of people. It's refreshing to me. And I'm sure it is to a lot of people who are listening because man, it's a struggle when you're trying to, I don't know, fit a square inside of a circular hole, I guess. It just doesn't really work and it doesn't fit, and people are confused about why it doesn't fit and why it doesn't quite resonate. So that's cool. I actually like that. And you said, maybe this is bad to say, but I don't really think anything's bad to say. I mean, it's like it's life. We have, sort of this one opportunity to go at it, and you guys are both balancing jobs, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's like the most relatable thing of all time, which is, a married couple who's balancing full-time jobs and now starting to make money on the internet, which is really, really cool. And I always tell people too, I'll get off my little rant here, but I always tell people, to me, everything that people will come on the show and they'll say things like, they'll say things like, I know this might be bad to say, or sometimes people always say, they'll say something like, yeah, I still have that full time job, like it's a prison sentence or something. And even with full time jobs, like I remember and think back of how much my full time jobs when I was getting started um, gave to me, like the ability to do to test and try out paid ads and build some marketing skills, right? And so I think I used to be hard on myself about that, but man, I now see how much a full time job is a blessing to have, and it can feed into your business. It can provides safety and security, which is good. I mean, some entrepreneurs in this industry are crazy, like just legit crazy. Like, hey, I made $50 yesterday and I quit my job. And I'm like, God, please don't do that.
Right.
That is not bold entrepreneurialism. That might just be stupidity, you know? No, I say that only half truthful, but for you guys, how on earth do you guys find the time and to build out stuff? And I'm also curious how the Facebook group idea came about, and when did you start that, and how's that going?
So the Facebook group, that is pretty new. We just kind of started it, I'd say like 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's pretty green.
Yeah.
And from talking to mentors and friends we've made on this journey, it just became more and more clear that people need a safe place to go to ask questions, get help, get guidance, more direction. And we figured it's not a new concept, so
this was the nenext step.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
And finding the time.
Oh boy.
His schedule's a lot more lenient than mine, so that's why you see his face a lot more than mine.
Yeah.
But we'll make it work.
Yeah, heck yeah, you'll make it work. Yeah. And you've just got to figure out a good flow and a good system. Yeah, it just makes sense. I mean, over time that sort of settles in. I've witnessed and been around a lot of different married couples or even just partners or spouses or even just business partners who do this together as friends or do any sort of business together as friends. And it's sort of like you sit down and most days in the beginning, you're just figuring out what the hell do we need to do? And then it's like, do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? It's like, yeah, I can do it, whatever. And then you figure out roles and who's got more time and energy to devote to that kind of thing. But I think the Facebook group, you guys have, I think, less than 20 people in that Facebook group. And I wanted to say that out loud and acknowledge that, because there's also a lot of people on this call who are like, oh, you mean there's people who are on this show who don't have 8,000 people in their Facebook group, right? And I think people often miss the steps along the way to six figures. People often miss the steps along the way to getting your first $10,000 a month or something like that. And there's steps and there's growth stages there. And you can be successful on the internet and you can be making money on the internet and not have a massively huge following. You got 16,000 on your TikTok, a little over, and quite a few on Instagram. I didn't look, but you've also got your Facebook group that you just started too. And as that builds and grows, and as you're able to sort of help and educate people through that group, that'll become a really, really powerful social testimonial, for you guys and for, your brand and everything like that. What in terms of building your audience, you have an email list too? And how's that? You email out to your list?
Yeah, we do have an email list. I think the last I looked the other day, we were just under 600.
Wow, great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's growing quick.
Yeah.
Never would have guessed, Matt. I mean, Jesus, it's a roller coaster ride, but man,
it's fun.
Those small goals that you hit. I mean, and anybody watching now or watching, on a replay, I mean, embrace those goals, because that's that shot in the arm that just makes you want to hit that next one and just keep building and growing. And I'm ready to run through a wall right now. You get me all amped up.
Well, I just feel like, I mean, when you've got an email list of that amount, and you've got followers at the level that you have, you started a group, that to me says, if we can do that, we can certainly go to any height, any length, anything. No question about it. It's a replicable. It's a replicatable result. It's a result you got that you can do over and over again. You can accomplish that again and again, which I think is really powerful, really cool, because it gives you hope, but also it's not just blind hope anymore. You guys are actually
Right.
having success. You guys are actually seeing it come through, right? Which is that is more powerful than anything else, I think. So tell me a little bit about the future. You guys are still working full-time jobs. You're putting money in the bank account that way, which is great. And you've got this sort of sprouted online business that's like popped through the ground, and it's kind of like, oh, here we go. Like, I'm alive,
Right.
and tell us a little bit about the future and sort of, do you have dreams and goals and aspirations for the future and what you want for the business, but then also what you want for your lives after the business becomes even more successful too?
Well, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, my number one main goal is to be able to grow this to the point where, the pretty one out of the couple no longer has to, punch into that time clock, and, I can retire Gina, basically. That's absolutely major goal number one. Um, and I'll be happy when we, not if, but when we get to that point. And then if things allow itself to be, then, I guess the ultimate goal would be to where I can hang up my gloves too, and we're both doing this entrepreneurial journey full time, and taking it as far as we can. But yeah, I mean, that's really it for us. We want to be able to, walk away from that grind, and
Yep.
hopefully inspire people to do the same thing, and, let them know that this is something that can be achieved no matter how far away it might seem. You just take one step at a time, and you're going to get there.
I love it. That's super cool. And yeah, I like Brad said this in the chat too, when, not if. And I like that clarification. I almost like it better than just saying it as normal, because it sort of allows a little insight into how you're beginning to reframe stuff, or maybe you already have, but just starting to reframe that statement, even, of just like, no, it's if, or it's not if, it's when. And that's really cool. And it's probably, it's probably really, really cool to have somebody alongside of you who's fighting and grinding as much, as you are. And they're like, it's real in the trenches kind of thing every day. And it's like, hey, it's not if, it's just when, which is, here's the thing, like, that has become a little bit of like a cliche phrase, or a kind of a cliche thing in our industry. Whoa, it's not if, it's when, you will be successful, whatever. But the more that I've been in this industry, where we're at today, right now, by every metric that I can track, which is not a lot, but by every metric that I can track, I'm seeing more people have success on the internet, especially in our community, than I have since I started back in 2010. So that's a solid, let's call it like 11 or 12 years. And it has gotten exponentially easier to do so over the last 12 years. And the funny part is 10 years ago, I got the same thing that I get today from people in terms of excuses of why it's not going to work. Well, it's saturated. I was like, guys, I mean, maybe I would believe you, or maybe I would believe that, except that everybody said that 10 years ago, and nothing's changed in the last 10 years, except people are making more money on the internet than they were 10 years ago. That's the only difference. So like, I just don't think it is, and I get those same things over and over and over again. It's like, all right, at some point, like, somebody just needs to slap this person and just like, dude, no, it just doesn't work that way. But I do think that the whole when and not if thing is definitely more true now than it ever could be or ever has been that I've seen. And even in the exact metrics that I look at, I see that there's more people who are verifiably, based on everything that I can track, finding success on the internet than they were 10 years ago or ever before that I've seen. And I think it's just a testament to that mentality. And I think it helps verify that mentality. Not that I'm guaranteeing that people are going to make money if they never stop or whatever, but generally, I think most people that I see, the average person out there who's like, hey, damn it, I'm going to figure this out. And they've been successful at their jobs, right? They've been successful in the work that they do outside of the internet. And David always say this phrase at masterminds. He's like, hey, you didn't just come here to somehow get dumb overnight. Like, you've been smart, you've paid the bills, maybe you bought a house, maybe you pay rent every month, you pay your bill, like you put food on the table and you eat. Like, you're a functional human being for the most part. Like, you've learned how to solve problems and become a little bit of an engineer of life. This is just another piece and facet of that, except now you're not going to work and a boss isn't telling you what to do. You've sort of got to instruct yourself. You're an entrepreneur business owner. So now you've got to like consistently go at this because you got no one to answer to. And it's just an interesting thing where when there's a boss, it's like, well, I got to answer to the boss. I mean, somebody's going to get me in trouble, but then it's us. And it's like, well, are you going to get yourself in trouble? Are you going to be the one breathing down your neck? Like, hey, like, you going to get to work today or what are you doing? And we sabotage ourselves more than we're willing to sabotage our boss, social constructs or whatever. But to tie that all back, a little bit of a rant there, but to tie that all back, the when, not if kind of thing is more true today. And I love that you've adopted that mentality for your business because, man, is it true for most people who just continue to work and learn and figure it out and implement what they learn. Man, the internet is a wildly profitable place to be learning skills these days. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's something that we try to kind of remind ourselves to it's been drilled into our head by others to always be learning, and it couldn't be more accurate. Like you have to learn and grow, and not only for your business but as a person too, and that all shows through your content and the messaging that you're getting out to.
And you have to have that self-discipline. What's nice about us too is we have the accountability of each other. And whether you want to do it or not, like you said, you don't have a boss. So
well, I do.
He does. I don't.
I love it.
To have that self-discipline to, you might not want to do anything that day, you're not feeling it, but you have to do it anyway, especially if you have that end goal.
Yep. Yeah, totally. Especially, I love that you guys have this like boss employee dynamic. It's hilarious. I know it's just kind of like kidding, but that's awesome. And I like that you guys have found a good sort of rhythm to do all of that. That's super cool. For everybody who's here, I'll let you guys have the last word. For everybody who's here, new people, especially people who are just newer to our community, like they're like, this is the first Wake Up Legendary episode I've ever seen. What would you tell those people who are still in the phase of figuring out, like, could I actually pull this off? Could I actually make a little bit of money online? Maybe quit my job someday, maybe develop a full-time business. What would you say to those people?
Oh, 1000%. I mean, you got to the point that you're at for a reason. Make that reason a reality. I mean, it can happen. I mean, we're proof positive that, the system that you guys taught us works, and you just have to implement it and just be consistent with it and know that it's something that's going to take some time and effort on your end to make happen. But if you want it, it's all there to take. Just get after it. Don't give up. Reach out to people.
You're gonna get in valleys. You're gonna have the highs, but just keep pushing through because it works.
That's cool. That's really cool. And even if you got to take 9 months off, you guys are living proof that, hey, Legendary's still gonna be here 9 months later. Like, it's gonna be okay. Life's gonna be okay. if you need to take some time off for yourself or for personal stuff, if you just need a 1 month, like, dang, I gotta go up into the mountains, I gotta rent an Airbnb and disappear for a little bit, come back refreshed, like, we'll just still be here, guys. It's not a big deal. So
Absolutely.
well, cool, guys. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks for taking time and making time out of your day. We know you've got other stuff going on, so we're really thankful that you guys are willing to come on and share with us, because every single time that somebody comes on, it's always helpful to me. It's always helpful to our community. So thanks, guys.
Well, thank you. We
thank
appreciate
you.
it 1,000%.
This was one of his goals from day one. I'm not gonna lie. That was one of the very first things he said is, I will be on Wake Up Legendary someday.
But before the commission,
Wow.
it was these guys need to know who we are, and like
Damn, that's
cool.
cool.
Run through a wall. So
that's so cool. Well, I love it. I'm ready to run through a wall, man. Is this the best? Is this your best handle here?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, guys. Have a good rest of your, what day is today? Wednesday. And touch base with us in a couple months. Shoot us a message or an email and just let us know how things are going. We'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, guys. Right here on the screen, you can see it if you look. It's Dave.and, the word and, A-N-D, Gina. And you guys can follow them on Instagram. You can follow them on TikTok. Dave.and.Gina. They're on Instagram and TikTok. That's the best place to go find and follow them. And like I always tell you, when you go find them and follow them, give them a little bit of support. Comment, let them know, hey, I found you on Wake Up Legendary. It was really cool. Tell them something that was inspirational about the episode. And these guys are awesome. You're going to want to follow them. You're going to want to follow them and see where their journey leads, because I think they're going to be big. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it so much for coming on. For everybody who tuned in, thanks so much. If you want to find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you can even watch video on Spotify if you want. And you can always watch us on Facebook at 10 a.m. Eastern every single Monday through Friday. Go give Dave and Gina a follow, Dave.and.Gina. And we'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 a.m. Eastern.